Hello, lovely people, and welcome back to another astonishing episode. I mean, I just can't believe my luck here, the caliber of people that are coming on. And today's episode is just a mind blower for me. I have with me today the truly astonishing homeopath, Camilla Sherr. Now, Camilla is the co-founder and director of Homeopathy for Health in Africa. And it's an NGO that treats HIV and AIDS and offers low-cost homeopathic healthcare in Tanzania, East Africa. And I'm going to talk to Camilla about that and how it was founded, because it is a beautiful story. She is an international lecturer and teacher in the Dynamist School. Have I got that right, Camilla? Dynamist.
Fine. Dynamist, same thing.
Dynamist School for Advanced Homeopathic Studies. And in 2016, Camilla was awarded a Fellow of the Society of Homeopaths in the UK, which is amazing. And she is the president of the Finnish Society of Homeopaths since 2020. And Camilla, you have been a homeopath, I believe, for 28 years, something like that.
Yeah, my whole life. That's all I know how to do.
A massive welcome to the Wellness Way. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, Camilla, like myself, is a woman on a mission. And so, can you tell us about homeopathy? Because I know a lot of our audience today most probably won't have heard of homeopathy. And it is still the second largest medical system in the world, with over 200 million people using it worldwide. And in India and Asia, you can still use it as your main or only source of treating disease, including things like cancer, which you can't do in the UK because of the Cancer Act of 1936. So it has this massive following, but somehow seems to have been forgotten. So can you tell us the beginnings of it and what it's about? That would be a fantastic place to start.
I don't know if it's forgotten, Philly. I think that it's very much alive and it's very much being used. And the 200 million is actually an underestimate. I think I saw a figure of 500 million people using it, maybe 200 million actively or only. It's a massive amount. Even in Europe, 100 million people use homeopathy as their primary source of healthcare. So it's big numbers. It's a lot of people, but because it has such bad press, I mean, it has been really, really hammered down systematically since 2005, actually, and because of the bad press, no one really wants to speak up. There are tons of people who use it, and but go to the doctors. Are you going to tell them that actually this ear inflammation didn't get healed with the fifth course of antibiotics, but was healed with homeopathy? No one does it, because you get a note in your patient record saying that you use homeopathy, or that you're a difficult patient, or you don't do what you are told to do. So no one wants that on their records, because once they go in, it's impossible to get it out.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And I think for me, when I first came across homeopathy, and I dearly regret that I haven't used it more frequently in my life, it would have most probably, I absolutely believe it would have saved me from having a spinal fusion. But for me, it was something that I used as a complementary medicine. So I kept it in my toolkit when I had children. And so if they fell over and they had a bruise or they banged their head or something, I would just put a little arnica tablet under their tongue. So so I would not be, you're absolutely right, that figure must be so way out, because I would not be down as one of those people that used homeopathy. So, yeah, yeah. So what is it?
What is homeopathy is the age-old question. What is it? What does it do? What is it based on? And homeopathy is based on, in short, it's based on four principles. The first principle is the principle of like cures like. And that is actually a law. What can cause can then be, those same symptoms can be cured with that substance. So that is the first principle. So if a substance can cause a fever, that substance can also cure a fever. So it's based on similarity. That's the first one. The second, and that one is fairly accepted, you know, even in medical circles, they know that there are ways to treat with opposites, with similars, and with the same. So that is the similars. It's the same as actually doctors use it all the time. Chemotherapy is based on a homeopathic principle of like cures like, but no one really knows it because they don't think like that.
I didn't know that.
Exactly, because chemo, the stuff used in chemo actually causes cancer, and it's used to cure cancer. So, or radiation therapy in cancer. Radiation causes cancer, and radiation also shrinks tumors, like with like. So it's the same principle that is used without anyone, you know, actually realizing that this is the case. So that's the first principle, very simple, like with like. And the second one is totality. We treat always a totality of symptoms. So we treat the whole person. We don't just treat your headache, or we don't just treat your acne or your knee or your indigestion, for example. We always look at the whole person, and we don't, you know, we look at everything that's going on: your sleep, your appetite, your dreams, your fears, your worries, your phobias, your circumstances in the life, your obstacles to cure, you know, what is stopping you from getting well. There's a whole set of things that we look at.
So if somebody came to you with, say, diabetes, well, two people came to you with diabetes, they might have completely different prescriptions from you.
Exactly. And that's the third principle, which is individuality. So we always look at the individual person. So we don't treat a diagnosis. We don't treat diabetes. We don't treat epilepsy. We treat the person who has epileptic fits. So, for example, epilepsy here in Tanzania, where I live, is very, very common. And people are on medication, you know. So I just, in the Maasai area, for some reason, it's quite common. So, you know, I have one case where the epilepsy started after the death of a family member. So there was shock and grief. And the second case, the typical thing of that is that whenever the man gets angry, he has a fit. So when we gave the remedy, different remedies for those different people, one is grief and one is anger. And so the prescription is different. And the guy with the anger, he came back and he said, well, I haven't had one single episode since I got your remedy. And the reason is that these days I'm just so relaxed that I just don't get angry anymore. So there's no reason for me to have that fit. So yes, always individual treatment. And the fourth principle is minimum dose. So there's already from the, antique Greek times, they said that, you know, small doses, you know, large doses kill, medium doses stimulate, and small doses cure. So homeopathy uses very, very minute doses that are diluted, but not only diluted, they are also dynamized. They are potentized. So they are succussed very heavily, either 1 to 10, 1 to 100, or 1 to 50,000 ratio. And diluted and succussed until we go over the Avogadro number of chemicals. So we go above that number. And it's very interesting because then we can use substances like arsenic, that is a poison that in large doses it kills. Everybody who read Agatha Christie knows that it's used for killing enemies. Yes, exactly. But it can cause, for example, diarrhea and vomiting, right? So in homeopathy, it's our first remedy for diarrhea and vomiting. So for example, for food poisoning. And we can use it safely because we don't have any of the original substance left, but somehow we have retained the energy, the essence, the substance of who who or what this remedy is.
It's fascinating.
It is. It's absolutely it's mind-blowing. You know, it still blows my mind actually on a daily basis.
I know. We met on the Healthcare the Future Summit, and Sally, the journalist Sally Beck, she had what was it? She had Berlin Wall. She was treated with Berlin Wall. I mean, this is so a lot of people must think that we're talking complete and utter shit. And we're not. I mean, this stuff works. Um, so so it can be absolutely anything that is used for that person.
Yeah, you know, the thing is that it appears that everything has energy to it. Like even immaterial things have an energy shield around them. And in fact, quantum physicists and these kinds of physicists that do nanoparticles and quantum physics, they all say, of course, homeopathy works. They know it because they know what it's about. They know about energy and energy fields, etc., etc. So we are with homeopathy. The way I see it is that we're matching the energy with the energy, like with like. You know how you say about a person, you can say, you know, I really gel with them. You know, our energies are really in sync. You know, we even say that. So there are people whose energy matches your own, and you feel you know, a kinship, and you understand them. And then it's somebody else who is completely, we say, completely from a different planet. So their vibration or their energy is entirely different to our own. And these are immaterial things that are just like vibey things. You know, they are not measurable. You can't measure it. You can't say exactly what it is.
I've got a podcast up, so if anybody hasn't heard my podcast on energy, go and check it out. And I've got a little clip in there, which just trying to think how it goes now. In religion, we call it spirits. In science, we call it energy, and on the streets, we call it a vibe. All I'm saying is trust it. You can't fake a frequency, and this is it. It is all frequencies.
Correct. That's exactly it. And in fact, Luc de Montagnier, who unfortunately passed away this year, but he, you know, he was in his 80s, but he got the Nobel Prize for being on the team of discovering the HIV virus. And he, in his late years before he passed away, he spent years researching ultra diluted molecules, which is homeopathy. He just didn't want to call it homeopathy because of the bad rap for the name. So he just called it ultra diluted molecules. And he proved that in a homeopathically potentized prepared arsenic, even though there are no molecules left, there is a vibration that can be measured. And he presented it to the scientific community. And they sat there and they went, yeah, but no.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, you know, actually the proof is out there that there is something in it. It's not just placebo. There is proof that it's not just placebo, but you try and get hold of that proof somewhere. Good luck to you.
Well, actually, funny you should say that. I've got Dr. Bruce Lipton coming on the podcast next year. So this is a man who has been spending his whole life proving quantum physics. But it, as you said, it gets a bad rap. And the thing that I find most extraordinary is when you look at the list of some of the people that use homeopathy. So, Queen Elizabeth, who's, sadly passed over now, but she used homeopath and was still working blooming 8-hour day at 90, whatever. Prince Charles uses homeopathy. Paul McCartney, I read, uses it. Tina Turner. And what do they all have in common? They were all extremely fit old people. And yet we are led to believe that when you become old, you're meant to be ill.
Do you remember Prince Philip, who had a hip replacement? And 2 or 3 days after his hip replacement operation, he attended, I think it was Meghan and Harry's wedding. I mean, who does that? He was 90 something. He had a hip replacement. Of course, and no one said, oh, you know what? This is because he took homeopathic remedies, which of course he did, you know. So because no one gets up from a hip replacement 2 days later.
And goes to a wedding. No, no. I mean, it's extraordinary.
With homeopathy, this is reality. And for example, here in Tanzania, we did a small case study / research where in a local hospital here, they operate on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, always. So we said, okay, let's, we'd given Bellis perennis, which is like the arnica of the abdomen, if you like, the soft parts, the soft tissues of your body. So we'd given to some women who were recovering from C-section, and they recovered remarkably fast. So the hospital said, well, why don't we try it for all of our abdominal operations? So we did, and we had our medicated bellies, and then we had our non-medicated bellies. And all the people who were operated, they're all lying like sardines in one room, one next to each other, like boom, 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 boom. And the effect of the bellies was so astonishing that you could tell, you could walk into the room and go, that one had it, she had it, she had it, she had it, she didn't. It was
Wow.
literally like that. And after the first week of the experiment, the nurses came to us and said they figured out, of course, which one is the real thing. What's the real McCoy here? And they said it's unethical not to give all of the patients the homeopathy. They said, we have to stop
Wow.
this right now. We have to offer it to everyone. Because the ones with homeopathy, they were up and showering and eating, when the other ones who didn't get the homeopathy were just lying still, and you could just see like their eyeballs move.
I find this extraordinary that there is so much evidence for this, and yet it isn't used in mainstream medicine.
Get this. Arnica. They did a research in California where people in those days, this is maybe 7 years ago, a lot of plastic surgery, right? So plastic surgery, you're like in your bandages, all swollen, terrible situation. They gave arnica to these people, and they took photos before and after, and they had a placebo control group, right? And they gave the photos of before and after to a group of plastic surgeons to have a look at the photos and identify which of those patients were given something. They didn't say it was homeopathy. Which of those were given something to aid the recovery? There was a 100% accuracy in them
Wow.
identifying which ones got the arnica. And then guess what happened? They were told that they were given arnica. The whole thing denied, wrapped up, thrown in the bin, never happened. I never said that, blah, blah, blah. But just so your
Oh,
listeners will know, if you go for plastic surgery or, plastic surgery, take your arnica. You will heal much, much faster.
yeah, no, absolutely, which is fantastic. And I've heard you
Yeah.
talk about a friend of yours in
Yeah.
Africa who
Mm-hmm.
was called into a school where a lot of the children were malnourished and very, very sick. And there were too many people for her to treat on her own. Stop me if I get anything wrong here. Well, you take over the story. Can you tell us about that and what she did within the school?
Yeah, I mean, she really had a brainwave. What she did is because these kids were very malnourished, it was a very poor area, and she gave them two different remedies. One was a mix of water-soluble vitamins, and the other one was a mix of fat-soluble vitamins. And they put the kids on those for a couple of weeks each. And she said the difference was dramatic. It was really unbelievable. And I had never thought that, you can take vitamin C in potency and it'll be more potent. You know, there is, it was kind of a new thought for me after what Barbara did. And yeah, and I've used that knowledge with the agri-homeopathy, homeopathy for plants, and in treating, in fact, feeding the soil, treating the soil with the same philosophy and understand.
Okay, and that's where I want to come to next, because I find this so exciting. So I grew up, my dad was a strawberry grower. And he came back from World War II, and he had just enough money to buy a little bit of land, 5 acres, and grew strawberries. And there was something in the UK back in those days called red core, which completely wiped out the strawberry crops for all the farmers, and it was rampant. And my dad um, worked on, and I don't know what it is, and he's not here anymore for me to ask him, but he worked on healing the soil to heal the plants. And then he and did phenomenally well. And he took it to a firm called ICI, a big chemical company. And they went, oh, yeah, that works. We're going to buy that off you. And we're going to give you just a little bit of money for it, but we're going to give you a really big royalty. And then they buried it. Yeah. And it never went out there. And so I grew up with a dad that was, tried to be as organic and working with nature as he could. But homeopathy, the first time I'd actually thought about using it for plants was after my mum died. Everywhere that I'd lived, Mum bought me a white rose. It was our flower, that she bought them for my confirmation and any important time of my life. And when I got married, I had white roses. I mean, white roses were my gig. When Mum died, I sent her 52 white roses, one for every year of our life. And I didn't want to lose that rose when I moved. And it wasn't looking very healthy. And so I kind of dug up sections of it because it had kind of spread. It was a climbing rose. And a homeopath friend of mine said, put some arnica in the water and it will kick back. And I planted it here 2 years ago. It's bloody massive. It's bigger than I have ever had a white rose in my life. And so when I first came across your work and heard your first lecture, I was just like, oh my God, this makes complete sense to use homeopathy for plants. So, you tell us how you went from, being a world-renowned homeopath to then going into now it's an homeopathy, isn't it? Agri homeopathy. So how did this come about?
Well, I think it's a natural succession, really, if you think about it. If you treat humans and then you have a dog or a cat and they're in some injury, and you give them arnica and you see that it works just as well as it works on your kids. And then you have a rose in your garden like you did. And then it gets damaged, the roots get damaged when you move it or when you're repotting or whatever. And then you say, oh, well, it's damaged. Let me give it some arnica. And then you see that it responds because it's alive. It's the same thing. Plants have a vibration just like us. They are energetic beings just like us. So of course it works on plants. Now the trick is, of course, how do we do it, because plants don't talk, so it's a little harder to figure out what to do sometimes. But for me, really, how this all started was that here in Kilimanjaro we grow quite a lot of coffee, very, very good Tanzanian coffee, and there is one German coffee farmer, who knows homeopathy and uses homeopathy herself. And she approached us and said, I want you guys to come and help me. I'm converting my coffee from chemical to organic. I know it's a really difficult time. And I know that with homeopathy, we can make the plants stronger and more resistant to diseases. Basically, like what I was talking about, the AIDS and HIV, make the system stronger, make the immunity system immunity stronger, strengthen the plant, just like we strengthen the human being. So it's exactly the same thing. There's no difference. There's no philosophical difference here.
It's actually, so I understand the soil and how important it is, because if there is no nutrients in the soil, there is no nutrients in us. It's that simple. But I'm going to go to the next stage with you. And I'm going to come back to the coffee farmer, actually, because you've got a lovely story about when a storm came and virtually wiped out her it looked like the crop was going to be wiped out for the season. So can you tell us about that? Because this is fascinating.
So the yeah, so what happened is that the coffee bushes were in full bloom. Suddenly, a very strong wind, and all the flowers just fell off, right? And she said, "Well, this is it. I've lost the crop." So I said, "Well, I've heard there's a remedy that is really good for flowering, promotes flowering, but I don't know. I've never tried it." Um, so she said, "Well, hell, there's nothing to lose. I've lost the crop already, so just give it to me." So we did. And what happened is that not only did the coffee start blooming again, it bloomed so much that they had such a massive overgrowth of coffee berries that I then had to treat the bushes for overbearing, which means that basically the whole bush is like kaput because it's given its all to the berry.
And I suppose it's it's the analogy, isn't it, of the mother who gives birth to twins or triplets or something, and you've just given it your absolute all, and then your body goes, "Oh, what the fuck?" Absolutely wiped.
Absolutely wiped out. Yeah.
And so you then treated the coffee plants for this kind of wipeout, and what happened next?
Oh, they revived in like 2 days. And this remedy, actually, it's interesting. The remedy that I gave for this is called China. And China is quinine. And quinine is actually how homeopathy was discovered a couple of 100 years ago, because this German doctor and chemist noticed that if a healthy person takes quinine, they will get very malaria-like symptoms. They will start with symptoms that look like malaria. And quinine already in those days was used to treat malaria. So he thought, I wonder if this is like a law or a principle that what can cause can cure. And that's how he started investigating homeopathy. But China, when I had malaria, there is a stage in malaria where you sweat like there's no tomorrow. I mean, I had a puddle. My stomach was like concave, and there was water. There was like a lake in my stomach. That's how, we had to throw the mattress out and buy a new one. I sweated so much. And I said to my husband, I was so depleted. I said to him, even if I drank the whole Lake Victoria, I would not get hydrated. I am totally, I'm out. I'm dried out. And he gave me one dose of China, and in 5 minutes I was just fine. Literally 5 minutes. And that is China is used from, we call it loss of body fluids. So it can be loss of like sweating too much, so you've lost all the water, or let's say if someone is nursing, breastfeeding too much, and they are like depleted from just breastfeeding twins, for example, or like this overbearing, you know, overproduction, and then you're totally full, and then you're totally empty. So to fill up the emptiness, China is amazing. It's really good after blood loss, or after you've been vomiting and diarrheaing for a couple of days. It just picks up your energy. It's amazing. So any body fluids that you lose, if you take China, you recover really fast. It's wonderful.
This is just fascinating. And I know that we're running out of time, as I always do on this show. And oh my God, I love my job. But I want to talk not just about the fact that, these things can be healed there, but you have also treated the weather. Now, we live in a world where everybody is, panicking, um, panicking to death. I shouldn't say that really, as we head to the sixth extinction, which is perfectly stoppable, folks, perfectly stoppable. This is the amazing thing about Mother Nature. She will do everything she can to heal, and she will always grow back. But as we talk about global warming and climate change, and having hot, more droughts and storms and everything, there's a couple of stories that you've got of treating frost and weather damage, drought. I know I've heard you talk about healing drought. And everybody goes, well, you can't heal drought, you have to give it water, that's how you heal drought. So can you just run us by that?
Well, there is, there's something also that is called the plant's ability to take nutrients and water from the ground. It's just the same thing as with human beings. There are people that it doesn't matter what amount of vitamins you pour into them, their insides are like Teflon. They can't absorb anything. This is actually not so uncommon. So there are remedies that can improve the plant's ability to absorb water, therefore making it more drought resistant. And also the same thing with nutrients, to be able to pull out the nutrients from the ground for the plant's benefit. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, we can make plants more heat resistant with a few different remedies. It's not difficult at all. Anyone can learn it. We can treat waterlogging, where plants basically drown. Their roots need oxygen, and if they are totally waterlogged, that's not a good thing. So we can help that. We can treat remedies for frost very easily. So, and this doesn't require any training. This doesn't require any training. Anyone can learn to do this.
So that's a problem that I've had a number of years in my life, where you have this really beautiful early spring, and it happened in 2020. I think in March or April, I was in a bikini in the garden, and it was just like, bloody hellfire, this is nice. And so I kind of thought, oh, I'm going to put my plants in. And then a month later, we had a really massive frost, and I lost virtually everything, and I had to kind of go again. So how can the homeopathy help that?
So, so there is a remedy called aconite, and aconite is our first go-to remedy when there's exposure to cold wind or to low temperatures, to freezing, to frost. And aconite treats that shock of it. Do you know, like in humans, a lot of people know aconite from taking it if on a warm day suddenly there's a cold wind and that you're going to be sick. You can just feel it. It hits your throat and oh man, now I'm going to be sick. And if you take aconite, you won't get sick. So this is a lot of people's go-to remedy who are susceptible to that kind of thing. So the same thing with plants, aconite will really help them recover from this kind of a shock very, very quickly.
This is amazing. This is amazing. I could talk to you all day. So I'm going to ask you, Camilla Sherr, will you come back on?
Of course. Yeah, happily. Happily.
I know that in January you're starting a course for kind of lay people to learn the basics of this um, agri. Pronounce it agri.
Agri-homeopathy, like agri-homeopathy. Some people call it agro-homeopathy, but I don't like the agro. That's so
No,
negative.
you don't want any aggro in your life.
No, I have enough. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So where can people find you? If you please come back on and talk to us before you start your course in January. And is this going to be an online course that you're doing for?
It's going to be an online course because that's where we are today. And that's also, I live in Tanzania. I can't be traveling all the time. So it's very convenient, and I think it's wonderful. Everyone can learn it. Like the course I'm doing right now, I have people from the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere, and some people are putting their garden into, preparing it for winter, and others are starting the growing season. So I'm sort of teaching both at the same time of, what you guys must do and what you guys must do at the moment. But I'm really passionate about actually everyone being able to do it, that you don't have to be a homeopath to do it. It's the same thing as with your Helios kit, Philip. Anyone can use that kit. And the beauty of homeopathy is that the same in agriculture, anyone can use homeopathy to to a very good degree. And then if you have chronic problems, you talk to someone who's more qualified. But for that beginning and first aid stage, anyone can learn to do it. And I really want to empower people, and I want them to be able to do it in their own gardens. And it's so much fun. It's really great. And then you have tools to do on your own. You have tools to get rid of your aphids in your roses, for example. It's wonderful.
So yeah, no, my garden this year got hit by caterpillars. My brassicas got really badly hit by caterpillars. And my sister's going, well, you've got to go out there and just pick them all off by hand. I'm going, oh my God. So I spent like 3 days doing that, but I couldn't keep on top of it in any shape or form. And so you're going to give people the tools in this course for us to learn. I am so excited about this, and I am so doing this course. And you have a little kit of some basic remedies that people can. Where can they find that kit, Camilla?
So you can it's online, so you can order it, and it's basically, they are remedies, they are combination remedies for various situations. So for example, there's one that is for the soil, one to empower your plants to grow better, it's called Grow Well. One is called Frozen, it's for freezing conditions. One is called Too Hot. One is called Fungaway, for fungal infections. It's like that. So it's for situations, so it's easy for anyone who is not a homeopath to just use these products, because who is now going to start to differentiate between arsenicum and belladonna, who is not a homeopath? And it's hard enough with plants as it is, because they don't talk. So sometimes it's just hit and miss. So I just banged it all together, and it seems to be doing a wonderful job. So I'm very happy about it.
I am so excited, and then it's on my Christmas shopping list for all of my sisters, because we're all big growers, and it's just like I've just got the ultimate Christmas present for them. So they won't be listening to this, because they don't listen to their baby sister. They think I'm as mad as a hatter, but they're going to be so wowed when they get this kit at Christmas. Um, I'm going to put the link, if it's all right with you, Camilla, I'll put the link on my webpage as well, because I know your webpage is under construction at the moment, isn't it? And we need your webpage up and running, and we need your work out to the world. This gives me such hope, this conversation, because in a world where sometimes there is so much doom and gloom, um, to have a solution, I am just completely, I cannot thank you enough for being here. My heart is brimming with happiness just knowing that people like you are in the world. And oh, Camilla Sherr, thank you. Please come back on. But for now, thank you very, very much for sharing your extraordinary information.
Thank you so much, Philip, for having me. I'm really so chuffed to be here, because I feel that, we can actually save the world if we do this. Can you imagine using homeopathic remedies, homeopathic phosphorus, instead of mining phosphates? It's the same thing, but without the side effects and with a fraction of the cost. So can you imagine actually doing that? It's a game changer.
It is a game changer. You've got a great line, and I heard you say it on Healthcare the Future, and I'm trying to think what it was. Oh, today's magic is tomorrow's science. Do you remember saying that?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, that's exactly it. Oh, brilliant. Thank you so, so much. And come and,
Thank you.
oh, bless you. And come and join me again, lovely people. For the next episode, I have amazing guests coming up the whole time. I cannot believe the information that I'm finding out and getting out. Just so thank you so much for being here. Till next time.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Goodbye.